Hi, and welcome to OCU Now. My name is Miguel Rios, and I'll be your host today. Today I'm sitting with a very special special host, the one and only Chris Harrison. He's an OCU alum. He graduated with mass communications. He was a soccer player, and now he's the host of The Bachelor and The Bachelorette. So welcome, Chris. It's
Hey,
nice
Miguel.
to have you.
Thanks for having me.
So last time that you were here, you were actually at the law school for the ribbon cutting ceremony.
That's right.
So they gave you an honorary doctorate.
Yes.
So now you're a doctor.
So please refer to me as Dr. Harrison.
Dr. Harrison.
Yes.
So Dr. Harrison.
Because I didn't earn it.
You also just taught a class for one of my professors, and you're a doctor. So how is this new
And
role?
ordained, by the way, because so I'm ordained, a doctor, and a professor.
Wow, impressive. So how
Yes.
is this new role for you?
I love coming back here to OCU, first of all. And so when I get to come back to the ribbon cutting at the law school downtown and see the facility and just see all the familiar faces, it's always great. Any excuse to come back home and be here on campus, I jump at the chance. And I get to speak to so many students. I try to do that as much as I can because I enjoy sharing. But to do it here at OCU is different. Because this is, literally in this building is where it all started for me. And in the studio and running these cameras and sitting here on the stage like you're doing and learning the craft. And so it's surreal, but it's very special to come back and be here.
So what is something that you really miss about OCU?
The food, no. The food was terrible.
Was it still Sodexo back then?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, the saga was not good. But I miss the people. Anytime anyone ever asks me about Oklahoma or OCU in particular, it's the people. That's something that, every place is a little bit different, whether you're talking about universities or countries or whatever, but the people are what sets a place apart. And this place always had very special people from the top. Back then was President Walker to my professors, Carly Harmon, who's still running the mass comm department, to my soccer coach, Brian Harvey, who's still here, to some of my dearest friends who I am still best friends with today were my fraternity brothers back in the day and played soccer with. And so it's still very special.
And are there things that you don't necessarily miss? I know you just joked about the food. Is there?
I don't miss tornadoes. I don't miss two-a-days of running in the Oklahoma heat, as we would have to get here a week ahead of time and run and get in shape. And it was 108 degrees, so I don't miss that. But and then the winter time when it would, the wind, there's nothing stopping the wind coming down from Canada through Oklahoma. So yeah, those are the days I don't miss too much, and I'm like, okay, being in California.
It's pretty nice.
Yeah.
So last time that you were here, you also had a book coming out, The Perfect Letter. I think you mentioned you were also planning to release another book. Is that something that you're still working on?
In the works, yeah. I just need to find the time. There's a couple of projects that I think are going to take priority now. But I would like to get back to that. I would like to continue that somehow, whether I'm going to continue the story from The Perfect Letter or maybe start anew. My brother actually has a short story that he wrote, and I think it would lend itself to a romance novel, and it'd be fun to incorporate my brother, who's actually a far better writer than I am, and get him involved in it and write another book and maybe just make it a pet project.
So the book is a romance novel, like you said. Is that inspired by your time as the host of The Bachelor?
Yeah, it wasn't exactly torn from the pages of The Bachelor, but definitely based on something that I picked up while hosting, and that is kind of our capacity as people to love more than one person at a time. Obviously, that doesn't happen in normal life too much because you're not dating 25 people, but when you're in that kind of extraordinary situation, it happens a lot with The Bachelor and Bachelorette, and I see that quite a bit. And so it is kind of taken loosely from that and our capacity to love more than one person and trying to decide, is someone that's just perfect on paper the one, or go with your heart and go with your gut and what's right and what's wrong. So, and then in the middle of that, there's some intrigue and drama, as there tends to be on The Bachelor as well.
And speaking of The Bachelor, you guys are currently filming The Bachelorette right now, right?
Yes.
Is there anything that you can tell us about that?
Rachel's our Bachelorette, obviously, and she's been fantastic so far. And we're really, the good news, I can't spoil too much because we're only three and a half episodes into it. But so far, she's done great. She has a really good group of guys. She's interesting because she's very strong, career-oriented. She's a lawyer from Dallas. I'm kind of a homer, but she's from Dallas. But the guys, it's a good group of guys, very dynamic, good group of guys. And so far, it's gone very well. We have had some drama. I will give you one bit of, little sneak peek, is there was one guy that was not there for the right reasons.
And is he
He's no longer with us.
good to know?
Not in the biblical sense, just in the literal sense.
And so, how is the casting process like for the contestants? So, obviously, you guys choose the Bachelorette from
Yeah.
the previous season.
Right.
How does the casting for the Bachelors?
You know, it's interesting. You know, when we started 15 years ago, we would just kind of have independent casting departments, and they'd go out and find people and do casting calls. But now it's, you know, it's gotten to be so big, and our calendar really is 12 months a year. I mean, we're nonstop between Bachelor, Bachelorette, Bachelor Paradise. So we have an in-house casting department. This woman, Lacey Pemberton, who used to be independent, we brought her in-house, and now she just works for us only. And 12 months a year, she's casting people. And it's really interesting. You know, it's not just about, you know, who's coming up next. We will call upon people we met maybe a year or two ago. Maybe we met you and you had a girlfriend at the time. We're like, oh, Miguel would be great for Rachel. So we'll call Miguel and we'll say, hey, you know, are you single? And like, yeah, I am. You want to be on the Bachelor? So we'll go back into the Rolodex and pull people up from years ago. And so it's very intricate and a lot goes into it. It's very important. A lot. You know, it's interesting you asked that question because so much goes into casting. It's a very important, maybe the most important aspect of our show is finding the right people, finding a good cross-section of this country from New York to California to the Midwest to whatever. You want to show all parts of this country, and so it's a very delicate balance of who's on the show.
Does the Bachelorette have a say in who actually becomes?
No.
No, none.
For a couple reasons. One, just they don't have time. You know, once we name them the Bachelor, a lot of times, or Bachelorette, we're going. But the other thing is, obviously, if you're on the Bachelor, Bachelorette, what you are doing isn't working. You know, so if you keep going, you know, left to your own devices, you're probably not going to pick. You're going to pick what's comfortable to you. You're going to choose what you've been choosing, and our job is to really break you out of that mold and show you some different paths to go down. It's typical of many bachelors and bachelorettes to come to me afterwards and say, hey, man, thanks. I never would have dated a man or a woman like that had it not been for the show. Sean Lowe is a good example. Sean Lowe would never be married to Catherine had he just been dating in the real world. You know, he gives us credit for introducing him to a woman like that. And he fell in love with her, and they're married and have a baby, and the rest is Bachelor history.
Interesting. And they're one of the most popular success stories from the show,
yeah,
right?
Hugely.
So did you think whenever you first started the show,
No,
that it would blow up this much?
No, you know, I knew what you're going to ask because it's just anyone who says they know their show is going to be a success or that, you know, their album or their whatever is going to be a huge success, you know, they're either ignorant or, you know, naive or all the above. It's just you hope. You hope it's going to be good. You think you have something good. At the time, it was so new. The concept was so new. Reality TV had just started, and it was a crazy concept. I know it doesn't seem like that now, but back then it was controversial. It was controversial. It was edgy. I was, you know, worried if I could ever, you know, show my face at church again, you know, with a show like that because it was that crazy. And now it's commonplace. But, you know, we knew we had something different, but until it caught fire really in season 2, I wasn't sure. You know, season 1 did well, but it wasn't gangbusters. Spring of 2002 is when we premiered, and ABC wasn't doing that well. And so the show did okay, but it wasn't off the charts. But over that summer, leading into season 2 with Aaron Berge, this phenomenon, this tidal wave, and all of a sudden, that's when I knew my life had changed. I was a part of something bigger than I had ever been a part of before. And I didn't have perspective. I didn't understand quite what I was a part of, but I just knew it was big. And I knew things were changing around me. And you know, when it's no longer the tabloids or the entertainment shows, it's Time magazine. It was the New York Times. It was those shows and those publications that were talking about us. And I thought, wow, this is different. This is big.
And what do you foresee in the future of the show? What do you expect it to go? Where do you expect it to go from here?
Well, the great thing about the show is that it always remains relevant. Because we always change. You know, the show's never the same twice. We always have a new cast. And so it's kind of like Dazed and Confused. I don't know if anyone's ever seen that movie. It's older, but, you know, where Matthew McConaughey jokes, you know, I keep getting older and they you know, stay the same age. And that's kind of the way the show is. I keep getting older as the host, but the cast, you know, stays young because it's, you know, Rachel now. You know, Trista, 15 years ago, was our first Bachelorette. Now she's, I won't reveal her age, but older with kids, married, and living in Vail. If we had just remained on her, the show, no offense to Trista, would have become tired, and whoever the fans were of her might have remained, but that's it. You wouldn't get new fans. The great thing about our show is it refreshes itself. You kind of hit the delete button and refresh every time. And now Ben H is gone and Rachel's in. And then, in 6 months, Rachel will be gone and there'll be a new Bachelor and new Bachelorettes. And so it's ever evolving and it's ever changing. And so that's how we're able to stay fresh, stay relevant. And we don't have to change with the times because our cast does. And so we let them kind of show us the direction.
Cool. And I know that you also have your own production company.
Yes.
And you were in Oklahoma a couple of years ago for part of maybe a project that you were doing. Is there anything that you can tell us about something that you're working on? Or?
Yeah, well, we did Heaven's Rain. I did a project, a movie with Brooks Douglas, who was a senator here and had a crazy, tragic story, but a beautiful, heartwarming story as well. And so we did a movie of his life. That was part of my company, and I, for quite some time, was executive producer and hosting the red carpet shows for TV Guide. And I kind of had the opportunity for Who Wants to Be a Millionaire came up. I kind of made a decision I was going to cut back in my life and reorganize and try and spend a little more time at home and with just me time. And that didn't work because ABC called and offered me this kind of gig of a lifetime of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. And there was this one part of TV that I knew I could still attack and do, and it was daytime syndication. And we had been talking about either a talk show or a game show type thing, and Millionaire is one of those vehicles that when it comes up, you jump. There's very few. There's a handful. There's, Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune and Family Feud and Price is Right and Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Those 5 I can think of off the top of my head. That are so big and so iconic that when you get a chance to host them, you do. So ABC called and asked if I would do that, and I said no because it's impossible. I don't have time. And they said, no, you're going to make time. We'll find the time. Oh, wow. So they shoehorned it into my schedule. And so honestly, because of Millionaire and then the other 3 shows going all at once, I've really tried to dial back and just do those. And then I have two children that I truly try to spend as much time with as possible, and that's more challenging than ever. And so I try to just work or be home, and that's it. And so a lot of my projects, my pet projects, have kind of been pushed to the back burner for now. The book, the production, all that stuff. I've just decided I'm going to concentrate on these things, make them great, and then try to, I have a small window left with my kids before they go off to school, so I'm going to annoy them and embarrass them as much as I can.
I'm sure they'll appreciate that.
They do. Well, they will later, I hope.
So you mentioned Millionaire. That's obviously a lot more host-centered maybe than The Bachelor. Mm-hmm. Can you kind of speak on that a little? Yeah,
The Bachelor and The Bachelorette are what they are. I hate that term, but it's true. After 15 years, it's kind of formulaic, and my job as producer or whatever, it's very, and host is kind of set. And there are times when I get to be creative and change things, but it's kind of the exception more than the rule. Whereas Millionaire, it's all host-driven. It's my job to run the game, to run the contestant, to tell the story, to add drama or intrigue, to arc the whole thing for 30 minutes with this person. And I love it. It's very heavy lifting because you're concentrating on the rules of the game and what I can get away with and not revealing too much, and having to read the questions, which oddly is one of the hardest things, is having to read, because you're reading it kind of cold. So, and some of them are pretty hard, or you have French or German or Spanish words, and you don't want to have, and you're in front of a studio audience, so you don't want to sound like an idiot, which is difficult for me. And so there's a lot going on in your head. And at the same time, you want to make this experience for this contestant, because you have to remember, this contestant has a chance to win $1 million. And even if they're not winning $1 million, life-changing money. Yeah. And so I want to make it special for you. I don't want to make, this is your time. And even though I do 175 of these, this is your one time. And so I try to always remember, if I'm at the 7th show of the day and I'm 3 weeks into production and I am burnt, I have to remember that Miguel, this is your first time and you are excited. And so I don't want to cheat you. And that's how I try to keep myself fresh and excited, is because I feed off your excitement and your, genuine, excitement for being there.
Yeah. Is it refreshing to be on Millionaire after doing, The Bachelor, The Bachelorette, Bachelor in Paradise?
Well, doing anything new, and I'm sure you guys, you can relate to this, is that it doesn't matter what you're doing in life. When you get to stretch a new muscle, For me, that's exciting, and that's kind of re-energizes me, and getting to do something different. And that's what part of, honestly, what writing the book was. It's not that I'm bored. I love what I do on The Bachelor or Bachelorette, but I want to stretch new muscles and try things and be creative. And look, The Bachelor and Bachelorette's my baby. It's my job, and it pays my mortgage, and it's going to send my kids to good colleges and all those great things. So I'm not leaving it anytime soon. But it's exciting to go on Millionaire. And honestly, I know this sounds weird, but have the opportunity to fail. Because I really don't have the opportunity to fail on The Bachelor and Bachelorette, because it's iconic and it's part of history now, and I take pride in that. But I want to, I'd like to go on live at Miss America and have the opportunity to fall flat on my face and make an ass of myself. And it's scary. Writing a book was scary because I had never done it before, and everybody's reading my written words and my feelings, and it's vulnerable, and the older you get and the more set in your ways, you lose that. That's why people go skydiving and do really stupid things and have midlife crisis. My midlife crisis is standing in front of 1 million people and hosting television. And so that's my drug. It's my excitement. It's what I love. And so that's why I love these other projects. It's kind of keeps me young, and it keeps me, and it kind of always reminds me of what I'm doing and what I love about my job and my passion.
So you've been on television for a long time, and you kind of talked about not letting, television change you as a person, but are there things about you that maybe have changed a little since being?
Yeah, look, I would love to sit here and say I'm the same kid that sat right behind that desk here at KOCU, but I'm not. Life changes. You will change with times, and that can be experiences. I was here for the bombing in '95, losing people that mean a lot to you in your life, and my mentor here in Oklahoma City, Bill Tegans, who gave me my first 3 jobs. He was one of the folks that went down in the plane crash with the Oklahoma State basketball team, and so those things change you profoundly, and you're not the same, for better and for worse. And also, I'll admit that when you get a certain amount of fame and a certain amount of money and stuff, you protect yourself more, and now that I have children, I want to protect my children more, and that changes you. I try not to let the profound, deep parts of my heart and soul change, but yeah, overall, yeah, there are things that have changed, obviously, since I sat here, but hopefully not too much. Hopefully people will still, my dear friends will still see me and say, oh, he's the same guy, still the same smart ass I knew back at OCU.
So what are some of the things that maybe have remained constant since you were sitting back there?
My love of what I do, luckily I grew up with amazing parents, an amazing family, a very large family. And I always, when you have to answer to somebody, when you feel like you have to answer to somebody, even though I know I am, probably wealthier and more successful than those I answer to, I still feel like I have to answer to them, and I owe everything to them, and owe being a good human being, and being a faithful man, and being a faithful father, and a good dad, and a good friend, and those are the things that drive my heart and soul. Business, I think, is fun. Yes, you need money to live and all those things, but what I do on The Bachelor and Bachelorette is I take it serious, and I love what I do, and it's fun, and it serves a purpose. But that's never defined me, and I think that's the most important thing, is my job and my fame and all that stuff has never defined what I do. My kids that are sitting over there, that defines me, and them, when they get good grades or when they do great things, when they go off to college in a few years, that defines me, and the people I love and cherish, and that, I like to think that defines me, and so those are the things I think, again, it came from a good upbringing, came from, always having faith in the Lord, and being centered with my religion, and always keeping that dear to me. I guess that's always kept me from going off the rails. Because look, you always have the opportunity in Hollywood. There's plenty of chances and times where I could have taken a right instead of a left. And going right's a good time. I'll admit, I've come close, and there's good times over there. But there's always a price to pay.
So we're going to be wrapping up pretty soon, but I know that you're going to be honored as an Oklahoma Creativity Ambassador
Yeah,
tonight.
what is that, do you think?
I was going to ask you.
Oh, well, Miguel. No, it's funny. I was a part of this thing in Texas, and it's very similar, the Texas Creative Arts Awards. And Oklahoma is kind of starting to do the same thing, and it's just honoring those that, have kind of excelled and gone on to do great things with creative arts in Oklahoma. And it is a huge honor to be, because Dallas, I was born and raised in Dallas, but I've always thought of Oklahoma as a home to me because it's where I truly grew to be a man and grew in this profession. And it's where, I was married and where, my kids came from. And I was excited to bring my kids back so they could see where I went to school and see where I cut my teeth and all that. And so it's cool that, I know Blake Shelton's going to be there tonight, the GM from the Thunder. And so I think it's an important thing. This school is based on that somewhat. OCU was a place for the arts and for the arts to grow. And whether it's music, dance, TV, there's so many avenues that you can go here at OCU. And performing arts, I went to school with Kristen Chenoweth, obviously very famous, alumnus here, and I was good friends with her back in the day. I still see her from time to time, and which is really cool to run into her. And we're like, OCU! She was a Gamma Phi, I was a Kappa Sig. We used to hang out at our parties together, and but that's really special to me to have that. And so it is something that should be celebrated because there are obviously far more important things in the world, very dire, important things. But I think the arts will always have a place. And they are always kind of the heart and soul of great times in our history. And great art comes out of tumultuous times, always. And we're in some tumultuous times right now. And so I think the arts are more important than ever. And I'm glad that OCU and Oklahoma will embrace that. And it's a place where they, don't stifle it. They encourage it.
Great. Well, I'll actually see you there tonight. I'll be there.
Are you getting an award?
I'm not.
Are you a creative Oklahoman too? Come
Not
on,
yet.
Miguel.
Not yet.
You will be, brother.
Thank you. Well, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
That's all the time we have for this episode of OCU Now. Thank you guys for watching.